What is going on? How is everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a good day so far. Hope everybody's had a good week so far. And I also hope everybody's enjoying the holidays for all who celebrate. That's my favorite time of the year. Hope everybody's enjoying their holiday drinks and spending time with family. Pretty much everything. Everything that comes with Christmas. Like I said, for all who celebrate. But that's not the point. The point is we're talking some Virginia Tech football. I'm watching the college football playoffs right now. Alabama just had a pick six, took the lead. But anyways, Virginia Tech football. There is a new quarterback in the transfer portal. I expect Virginia Tech to have some interest here for reasons. And I think if you do want to go get a portal quarterback, the ones that are available right now, there are two that intrigue me for Virginia Tech that are available right now. All right, so we'll get into the first one. That is Beau Pribula. So Beau Pribula had a pretty good year at Missouri, I would say. You may look at the touchdown to interception ratio and say otherwise. And I know a lot of Missouri fans kind of got tired of him. He did get injured, so he didn't get a full season. So we don't really know what the back half of the season would have looked like for him because he did miss a few games. You saw Matt Zollers come in. But I think Virginia Tech's going to have some interest here because keep in mind who recruited him. Beau Pribula transferred from Penn State to Missouri because Drew Aller was starting, obviously, and Beau Pribula he probably wasn't going to get any reps under Aller, which now it turns out he probably would have. He would have been playing probably, I mean, he would have played half a season this year for Penn State, and he probably would have played next year, I would say, for Penn State as well. And he still might. He still might. Because Penn State is very well in these talks for Beau Pribula as well. But anyways, the point is James Franklin is the guy that recruited Beau Pribula. He liked Beau Pribula enough to take two quarterbacks in one class. That was Drew Aller and Beau Pribula. Beau Pribula was, I think, coming out of high school, he was much better than his three-star rankings show. You know, he was one of the top quarterbacks coming out of Pennsylvania, in my opinion, that year. And now he's looking for a new destination. You got to think since Franklin previously brought him in, him and Franklin had a good relationship for what I've heard. I've heard that him and Franklin kind of mutually agreed for him to part ways to go to Missouri because Franklin really wanted to see him play. Franklin wanted Beau Pribula to go somewhere, get playing time, and succeed. That's what I've heard. I don't know how much truth is behind that. I think with Virginia Tech looking at the quarterback position for this year because you don't really have one going in next year. I know James Franklin to once James Franklin has his guys, he's usually going to stick with his guys. Beau Pribula is one of his guys. I think that you can go get him. I think you can go get him. Beau Pribula, he can get it done through the air. I think he's a very underrated passer. But one of my main things is he's a true dual threat quarterback. Do you remember James Franklin and Trace McSorley? Well, when Beau Pribula came over to Penn State, the whole deal was this kid's the next Trace McSorley under James Franklin. And that seemed to be the best style of quarterback that works with the personnel that James Franklin brings in to run his offenses. So if you look at his offensive coordinators, they all have a specific style. Beau Pribula fits that system, I would say, because he plays just like Trace McSorley used to play. And like I said, that was the whole idea of Beau Pribula coming into Penn State was, or not the idea, but the expectation was this kid plays like Trace McSorley. He's probably going to be the next Trace McSorley. If you look at his rushing stats in high school, they were insane. He rushed the ball really good at Missouri. The numbers won't pop to you, but if you look at the eye test, he rushed the ball very good. He ran the ball very good. I think this would be a very good pickup for Virginia Tech because, like I said, I don't think that you're going to land one of the top quarterbacks in the market. I don't know how Beau Pribula's market will be in the transfer portal, but I do fully expect them to go after Beau Pribula. It would not shock me to see Pribula end up at Virginia Tech. Now there are two other schools involved from what I've heard. I don't know. There may be more schools in the mix, but what I've heard so far, Virginia Tech does have interest. I have heard that. Penn State. Penn State's another one. They have interest in bringing Beau Pribula back. And then Washington State. I think Washington State would be very intriguing to them because they've shown to develop quarterbacks over the years. but they do have a change of staff over at Washington State. So I think I don't know. I don't know because there are also rumors of Rocco Beck transferring to Penn State. If Rocco Beck doesn't transfer to Penn State, you still have Ethan Grunkmeyer there, unless he enters the transfer portal. I don't think Beau would start over Ethan right now because I think Ethan has a very high ceiling. You have more years of Ethan, unless they want to keep Ethan and maybe sit behind Beau Pribula for 1 year. I don't know. I do know Beau Pribula's dream school was Penn State, I believe. That's what I've heard. He, like I said, he's from Pennsylvania, so he probably grew up watching Penn State. That's probably why he committed to Penn State when you already had a five-star quarterback coming in. I don't know. I think it's going to be a tight race between Penn State if Penn State does show legitimate interest. And I think Virginia Tech's probably the next team there, if not even number one. So I expect to see a run made here for Beau Pribula and Virginia Tech. Now the next one is Colton Joseph. He's another one, true dual threat quarterback. He can use his legs. I mean, he rushed for over 1,000 yards this season. He is from California. I just think the fit is very well at Virginia Tech, and he, like I said, he's another guy dual threat. Dual threats seem to work better in James Franklin's system than the typical pocket passers like Drew Aller was, and I think we know. I think we've seen that. You know, James Franklin's offensive system is the way it's ran. I know it's not his offense, but I mean, he hires the personnel to come in, and his style of offensive coordinators, they all run similar offenses. So the guys that James Franklin brings in that typically scheme an offense a certain way. I think Colton Joseph would fit that offense very well because he's another guy, kind of like Trace McSorley. I think dual threat quarterbacks work much better in that offense. Great year at Old Dominion. He's another guy. He could throw the ball. There are some turnover issues. There are some, but I think it's fixable. And another thing is in James Franklin's I keep seeing James Franklin's offense, and people got mad at me in the last video for that. But he, like I said, he brings in the personnel to run the offenses, and everybody they brings in seems to run a very similar offense. So I'm just gonna refer to it as James Franklin's offense. But anyways, the offense that James Franklin coach teams usually run, they they fit Colton Joseph's style perfect. I know I've already said that. I forgot where I was going with this. But anyways, I think it's a very good fit. That's point point blank. I completely forgot where I was going with that. But anyway, like I said, over 1,000 yards at the ground. Oh yeah, I remember where I was going with that. Okay. So James Franklin coached teams offenses. That style of offense that they run, usually you don't see many turnovers. You don't see many interceptions thrown in that offense. So maybe guys that do have some turnover issues, maybe it is best to go to a Virginia Tech and James Franklin ran team because a lot of his little dump offs, you'll see the running backs get involved some. You don't really see him throw it down the field much. And if you think of it, that's where a lot of turnovers happen in college football is really over the middle. I think college quarterbacks really do struggle to throw over the middle. And you don't really see that in James Franklin coach teams. So therefore I think it's a very good fit. I think Colton Joseph's turnovers wouldn't be an issue there, and I think that you would see another level to his game. I truly do because the fit, and that's the same with Beau Pribula. Like I said, there are some turnover issues because you look at the touchdown to interception ratio this year; it wasn't that pretty. But again, in that style of offense, I think that those turnovers wouldn't be as much of a problem because you're not really throwing the ball downfield. And you're also not playing SEC defenses every week. Keep that in mind as well. So I think that would be very big. I think Beau Pribula could be one of the better quarterbacks in the ACC, if I'm being 100% honest. It really depends on who Miami brings in because they're probably going to get a big portal quarterback. But off the top of my head, Beau Pribula could very well be a top 2 to 3 quarterback in the ACC next year. That is if CJ Bailey leaves as well. That's my opinion. Some people might hate that, but that's my opinion. But anyways, if you somehow did enjoy this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you did subscribe to the channel. I got so much support from the Virginia Tech fans. after my last quarterback video that I made. And I actually have another one getting posted that I filmed a few days ago as well. But yeah, let me know what you think, and let me know who you want to start quarterback next year for your team. Because if you're a Virginia Tech fan, you should be pretty excited because this is a whole new era of Hokies football, and I think the future is pretty bright over there. I think the future is pretty bright. So stay tuned for the next ones because we'll have a lot of Virginia Tech content coming. I still have to do that video breaking down all of James Franklin's staff. That'll be posted next week. I do know that that'll be posted next week. So stay tuned for that one. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good one. Peace.